All right, welcome everyone to the SALT Project Community Open Hour. I am acting as host today. My name is Gareth Greenaway. I'm a member of the SALT core team. So for those of you unfamiliar with the SALT project and where we are on all of the social networks. We're on YouTube, obviously GitHub, Slack. If you're not on community Slack already, I highly encourage you to join that. Twitch, Wayne Warner, one of my coworkers, one of the other members of the core team, hosts a weekly session on Twitch, running through a testing clinic. We're also on Reddit, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Okay, so our agenda today, we're going to go through some community updates with Chunga, catch up on the community forums with Thomas Phipps, a SALT docs update with Elisa. We have some Salty 5 session with Shane. We're going to review SEPs with Wayne, look at any help wanted issues, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. So jumping along, Chunga, any updates on community?
Absolutely. Thank you, Gareth. And thank you for being willing to host too, by the way, on a moment's notice. I appreciate it. So open hour, I think everybody's getting into the cadence now since the switch. Every first and third Thursday of the month happens at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Our next SALT community open hour, SALT project. I can't even get my own branding right. SALT Project Community Open Hour, it will be on March 3rd. So we hope you all choose to join us. And if you're watching via YouTube after the fact, we'd love to have you here live. We've got all kinds of stuff cooking, and it's for a later SALT Project Open Hour, but prizes are going to be involved with showing up to Open Hour. So just want to put that little gem out there. One thing I wanted to let everybody know is the SALT Project is modernizing its code of conduct. What does that mean to you? Well, for those of you that have been around with, pre-acquisition, before we came to VMware, there's a lot of us here on this call that have been part of SALT Stack and SALT Project for a very long time. The code of conduct was basically a boilerplate. I think we took, Elisa, tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think we just took it from Mozilla. I think is where it came from.
Sorry, the contributors covenant is the one that we're using.
Yeah. Oh, is that right? Okay. All right. That's what it is. Anyway, in any regard, I'm working with Elisa, and we are going to be modernizing the SALT Project Code of Conduct. And what really does that mean? I know a lot of times when you hear that sort of thing, people kind of raise their eyebrows and go, well, really what it is we're just making it a little bit more positive, a little bit more inclusive, a little bit more welcoming, a little less heavy-handed, perhaps, and a little bit more clear in what the expectations are, hopefully a lot more clear in what the expectations are in terms of the code of conduct. As part of this, we're going to be looking for community moderators, people that can help out in all of our different outlets where people chat all things SALT. So we already have our first three, one of them being me, another one being Elisa Rock. Cheers to Elisa for being one of our community moderators, and a shout out to Mr. Wayne Werner, who's also going to be one of the community moderators. We have a couple of spots that are open. I do have a short list of people I would like to see as community moderators, but I think before I approach those people, those individuals, I'd like to see if we have any volunteers. If there's anyone who would like to be a community moderator, there's not much to it. It's not a big time suck. It's just keeping track of what's happening in all of our communication channels, and just you being one that is fluent in the code of conduct and know the appropriate way to deal with things that may be a breach of that, and how that escalation works if things can't be brought under control. So if anybody has any interest in being a community moderator, just hit me on Slack. Super simple, and we'd love to have you a part of that little team with Wayne, Elisa, and myself. Also, another shout out for Salty 5. If you are doing something creative and innovative and inspiring with SALT, whether it's something as simple as automating your dishwasher or your sprinkler systems, all the way up to really complex stuff, we want to know more about that. So if you would like to be featured on a segment here in Open Hour called Salty 5, basically what it is you take 5 minutes or less to show us how awesome you are, and you hopefully inspire others that are using SALT, and we'd love to have you a part of that. Again, hit me on Slack. Pretty simple stuff. And again, if you have any questions, you can hit me in the Q&A or in the chat as well. while we're going. And that's Gareth, that's pretty much it for the community updates.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Chunga. All right, moving along. Community updates. Thomas, anything you'd like to let everyone know about?
Oh, this was actually meant to be the anyway. There was a ticket that came in Reddit about asking how setting up returners. They were testing event returners, and then they started passing -- return and wondering why that wouldn't work when you set it up on the master. And basically it comes down to the fact there are 4 different types of returners. There are just standard returners, which is what -- return is, which are executed on the minions. There's event returners, which are just the event bus getting passed through a returner, passes through the event return function of the returner. There are master job caches, which both send and receive on the system. So it'll only work with systems where you can actually retrieve information out of them. So something like SMTP, there's no way it could be a master job cache. And then there's external job caches, which is where the minion will save information to a database and the master can retrieve off of the database, kind of going outside of the event bus to handle job returns, usually used in larger infrastructures. But basically, according to the user, I summed all of the information that the documentation does down into one little Reddit post. So it was kind of interesting to see them. Super appreciative of that. The bonus item is basically somebody on Stack Overflow was trying to set up a super complex pillar system where it would automatically load hundreds of files and whatnot. And it's like, please don't do this. This is a good recipe to destroy your master. And they asked, well, it renders really quick though. And it's like, it's still going to be bad. The most expensive process your master does is pillar rendering. And it renders for every time a minion calls for new pillars, which can be several times a second. And each minion calls independently. So please be mindful of your pillars. Keep them fast, keep them just to security, and use map.jinja and default.yamls everywhere else. If you don't need, there are mechanisms other than pillar for handling data, basically. And that's about it from the community.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Thomas. Okay, moving on. Elisa, update on salt docs.
All right. So as a reminder, at the last community open hour, we announced that we were moving the Salt Docs working group to meeting every Tuesday. That's at 3 p.m. Mountain, 2 Pacific, and whatnot. And these sessions are co-working sessions, which means we basically get together and give each other a quick status update, resolve any kind of questions or issues that came up in between the last session. And then we just basically all work on Salt Docs projects on the same Zoom call. So it's a nice way to support each other while you work. And just, sometimes it's nice to just silently work on a call with people. So come join us if that sounds interesting to you. The next group meeting of the year is next Tuesday, February 22nd. The next note I want to make is that I've been going through the docs issues backlog, and there's a lot of issues that would be really quick doc fixes for people to work on that would make a big difference to the community. just to highlight why it matters, working on doc issues increases Salt's overall usability and makes it easier for new users to onboard with Salt. And if you're new to Salt, it's one of the most meaningful ways that you can make a contribution to Salt, because as a new user, you're experiencing it with fresh eyes before you have the curse of knowledge, and you're experiencing where the friction comes in using Salt. So if you can help improve our documentation, that's really helpful to us. So I've worked on identifying a couple of issues and I've been giving some of them a good first issue label in addition to the documentation label. I'm going to drop in that filter for the issues into the chat right now. So you can use this to just, so far it only has like 6 issues in it right now. Most of those issues would take me personally a long time to fix the ticket, but if a community member could work on it, I'm pretty sure they could get done really fast. So either feel free to come to our docs working group and maybe pick up a few tickets, set aside a little bit of time to knock out a few of these issues on your own. Yes, Wayne, I've been adding help wanted to some of them and I don't always remember, but yeah, and once you have a docs only PR open, if you tag me, I can make sure it gets reviewed and merged pretty quickly. Docs only PRs can make it through the system a little faster than other PRs can. So just a announcement about that. That's about it for the docs. Please join us for the working group if you would like to. And that's it for me.
Perfect. Thank you, Elisa. Moving on. Okay, Salty 5. Shane, I will stop sharing so you can share your screen and then show us your Salty 5. Hopefully Shane is on.
I'm afraid he has not jumped on. It's looking like he probably got hung up. So it's a bummer. We're really excited to showcase this. Megan has worked really, really hard on Heist, as you all know, and Shane as well. And looks like he's not here. So maybe we'll have to move this to the next open hour if we can get him. Apologies.
Say a couple words about it at least.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I don't have like the demo set up because he's mostly been working on it. It's in a PR right now, so it's not in a released version of Heist, but what he got working essentially is the ability to target Heist with Heist to target minions that are Windows. You also can run Heist on Windows as well. So that's kind of what he was working on, what he was going to showcase. So yeah, we'll have to definitely show it off next time because it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I know he was planning on being here. We had talked about it, so I'm quite sure that he's ready to go and got hung up on something. So, hopefully we'll get him on the next one. Thank you, Megan. I appreciate it.
Hey, Megan, I had a quick question about that. Just curiosity. Is that using the same mechanism that Heist uses with Linux machines? Is it over SSH, like an SSH connection, or is it using some other window? It is. Okay.
Yeah, it's SSH. So, the newer Windows operating system have SSH installed by default, but I think you have to actually enable it. The older systems, Shane actually wrote up a PowerShell script that people can use in the documentation to use to automatically install SSH and enable it. So trying to make it easy for people, but yeah, you would have to actually install SSH and make sure it's running for it to work.
This is very cool. All right, moving on. SEPs. Wayne, do you have any updates on the current SEPs?
Yeah, so we're actually getting back into getting through SEPs and reviewing them and processing them and having discussions and things. It's been a long time, I think, but we're finally getting that train moving again. So just some things that have shifted or happened in over the last week or so. So SEP 28 was the first one about inclusive language, which was replaced by SEP 34, which was finally accepted. So that one was merged. SEP 29 was accepted. That was one about some package beacon changes. We also had SEP 26, which is packaging Salt with Tiamat, which was accepted. I'm sure we'll have some news about that, more news about that going forward in the next couple of weeks. SEP 23 unfortunately was abandoned, but if that's something that you are interested in, then definitely feel free to pick that back up. That was the one about file listing details. We discussed and rediscussed it, and I still distinctly remember something convinced me to change my mind, but I don't remember what it was, and I haven't been able to find that. So in lieu of any details, we ended out closing that out. But if somebody is interested in that and making that change, then definitely go check that one out, pick it back up, and take off. We'll be able to review it and discuss, et cetera, et cetera. SEPs that had entered the final comment phase is there are 3 here, running the Salt Master as non-root user, adding runtime registers to Salt, which is on track to be abandoned, and the SSH configurable compression. So both of those, the first and the last one, are ones that are definitely interesting, and we're looking to accept those. But the runtime registers, that one is kind of in the same realm as SEP 23, which is that it looks interesting, but it definitely needs a lot more detail and kind of work around the SEP before we say, oh yes, this is totally a good idea. There, I think, probably a few more questions that need to be answered, and at least they weren't answered as of last night or yesterday when I updated the slide. So, if that's something that's interesting to you, then definitely feel free to pick that up and run with it. I don't think there's anything about it fundamentally that we don't like. It's just that it needs more detail on that one. So that is it for my SEP updates.
Hey, just real quick, I have breaking news. Shane Lee has popped in.
Woo!
I think we have some time, Gareth. If you're willing, we can jump back and have Shane's demo if possible.
Yeah, definitely. I will stop sharing so you can share Shane if you're ready to go.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Sweet. Okay. Let me see if this works. You guys can see that? Do I need to make it bigger?
Oh, I can't say it. I can't say it. Yes, it's fine. It's all good.
Looks great.
That's good to me.
All right, so I have a master running. Let me make sure I got a box up here. A Windows box. Okay, so I have a 2012 box, and I can, how do I prove nothing's on this thing? Let me see. All right, so I have no salt service. Salt management service isn't there. We have no salt.exe running on this thing. The only thing that's enabled on this is OpenSSH is installed and it's listening. So let's see if I can remember the command here. I think that's it. See what happens. Let's copy in the zip file up. Well, I'll actually the unzipped single bin. Right now it's only working on single bin. Now it's getting grains. It's running some grain stuff. I can show you the box here. It's got a salt process that's running. And that takes a bit because it has to unzip everything. How's the meeting been so far?
It's been wonderful, Shane. Thanks for asking. Sorry you were late.
Yeah, I'm sorry too. I was just like, I got the alert and then I was checking my email and answering all my Slack and then you texted and then as I was going through my Slack, I found yours.
We had a perfectly good lie going too, man. I said, oh, he's way hung up on stuff. I'm sure he's slammed.
All right, so we got the grains and now it's generating the key. And that, again, this takes a long time because of single bin. And another thing that happens on Windows is as it's extracting everything, you have anti-malware sitting here scanning it all. So that doesn't help speed things up either. That's why Windows is so secure.
What is that message about low water and high water?
Where's that?
Right there.
Oh, I don't know. That's the heist stuff. I don't know what that means. It's part of the SSH tunnel. Okay, so now it's gotten the key and now it's running. Where is that? Okay, so now it is starting. It has installed the service. So now we should have a service actually on here. So let's see. There we go. We now have a Salt Minion service that's running and it's spinning up. Looks like it's spun up. And this thing just ends up in a loop now. So you can ignore this. You can see that it accepted the key. My master accepted the key. If I do a salt key now, I now have the key for my minion. And I can test up ping on it. And this is all going across that SSH tunnel. And versions, I don't know. Anything else you guys would want me to run on this? It's Salt 3004. I wish there was a way to show that this was heist. Anyway,
There should be a grain.
there's a grain.
Yeah, minion type, I think it is. Underscore it. If that doesn't work, I'll look in the code. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm right there. All right, so now the last thing is to Control C out of this. So once I Control C here, then it comes over here. You can see the salt service disappears. If I refresh, the salt minion service is gone. Sorry, the process disappeared. The service gets removed. And also the directory where it's all stored, it's all cleaned up. I didn't show you where it was there. And if we come over here to salt key, we can see that the key is now gone. So that's my little demo of heist on Windows.
So in other words, Shane, like a good heist, it's cleaned up after itself.
It's cleaned up after itself, except we need to maybe discuss this, and I think Megan mentioned it. It's all going in this heist location, and we had talked about putting it in Windows temp. But I'm not sure Salt will start from there. I think it sees parts of the Windows as it shouldn't be running from here. I'll have to test that, but so it does leave that on Windows. In Linux, I think it's just temp, right? TMP heist, is that where it all goes?
Yeah, var temp.
Or
Nice,
temp.
and it does delete that directory.
Right, well, it had another directory in here that it deleted.
And we can't delete the entire thing.
We could, I would just have
Yeah,
to, yeah,
yeah. We should.
okay.
Is that directory that you guys are discussing configurable for both Windows and Linux?
I don't think it is right now, but there, I need to create an issue to track that work. It shouldn't be a difficult thing to add.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about like secure Linux boxes usually have no exec on temp.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
Right, excellent. Thank you, Shane. All right, moving on. Oops, jump ahead. So we are at the help wanted portion of the open hour. Just an issue that we wanted to highlight. If anyone is looking to get like a good first issue or just get involved, this is one that's we've had filed for quite a while. It is issue 30690. Hilariously assigned to me. I'm glad we're highlighting that one out. So this one, I guess if the new lines are apparently being rendered as literal /ends instead of the actual new lines. So I believe I did look at this one quite a while ago, possibly, or not, because
It has
it's
been
no
open
comments of
for
me.
quite a while. In November, it looks like when you
Oh,
have the
okay,
help
there it
wanted
is.
label. So yeah,
Okay,
been a few days.
been a minute, hot minute. Yeah, so if anyone is looking to looking for something to contribute, wants something to take a look at, this is a good first issue, or a good area where we need some help. And if anyone else has anything to say about this one, Wayne, do you have any comments?
No, that was just about it. And it looks like it's probably a relatively straightforward fix, but that's kind of common for most of these help wanted tasks. Is it's, you know, usually they're not complicated or difficult. It's just, you know, small, narrow, and probably doesn't affect people a whole lot. And so, you know, it's a really good opportunity to get your feet wet, or even if you just, you know, need something to do, you know, the evening or weekend, you know, it's a really good opportunity to contribute to SALT, because it doesn't really take a lot of, you know, you're not going to spend 10 hours trying to fix this. It's probably like 30 minutes to figure out exactly what's wrong, you know, another couple hours to write tests and the fix, and then get things pushed up, and then just kind of a, you know, 30 minutes here and there over the course of a week or so to get it merged in. So these tend to be pretty time friendly fixes. It's just, you know, when it comes down to the list of things that are important and where our time has to be focused, these tend to fall lower on that list. But so that's why we put the help on it, so that we can hopefully get them fixed. But yeah, it's just kind of one of those things that we probably won't get to in the near or even distant future.
Right, definitely. Okay. Moving on, Q&A. I know we had one question that I saw in the chat early on from Nick. Nick, if you want to unmute yourself, give a little more background on this particular question you had. It was regarding a pull request. Pull request looks like it was merged.
Yeah, it's not so much a question as sort of like opening it up to the group for comment. So on this PR, there was some discussion about whether or not the behavior that is introduced via the PR should be the default behavior. So it's basically through a configuration setting, allowing the output of state runs to be, I'm air quoting right now, compressed in a way that when you have multiple names acting within the same ID. So, a great example would be like, hey, I'm running, file.absent, and I'm passing a bunch of different files to the names parameter. That's all occurring in one ID, but under multiple names. And when you run in like terse ID or something like that output, you see a whole bunch of lines that are completely identical because it's all the same ID and potentially all the same result. So you're taking up a lot of screen real estate for things that like more or less you don't care about. So this PR gives the ability to compress all that down into a single line with like a number next to the ID telling you how many names were acted upon. So it can save some screen real estate there. And the discussion was basically like, hey, this seems like it would be valuable and people probably aren't going to pick up on the fact that it's a thing. So, should we just enable this by default? So the PR was merged with it not being the new default. But talked about it with Wayne and thought maybe it would be worthwhile to bring up here. And if anybody thinks it would be worthwhile to sort of go down the deprecation path to make this the new default in the future, after some time period, we could go ahead and do that.
I'm always a fan for less output, but so that's
yeah, and like the linked issue, I think has maybe a better description of what exactly the problem that we're solving for is. So you can see, the 4 lines in the middle there where, we have one command.run that's executing, 4 commands. It was kind of a contrived example, but, I'm rolling that into, 2 lines where it's aggregating based upon, hey, these are the things that had changes. These are the things that failed. If all of them had the same result, then it would be all rolled up into a single line.
It can definitely reduce the output, especially if you have lots of outputs like this. Depending on, of course, what your needs are. I definitely have seen some state outputs where this would have made things look much nicer because it would have removed a lot of that noise.
Definitely. If I remember right, I was the one that brought up the deprecation because somebody had brought up this should just become the default automatically.
Yep.
Yeah, we would definitely want a deprecation path for this. We don't want to like yank something out or change something this substantial between as a surprise. Like as we all have probably noticed, most communities, including ours, hate surprises between releases. So, and this actually, glad we looked at this issue. This actually cleared up one of the questions I had, was whether or not the outputs currently includes the name of like the individual names, and it looks like it doesn't. And I'm guessing that's kind of across the board when names are used.
So this is most valuable in scenarios when you are using like the underscore ID state output. So, the example here is terse ID,
Okay.
trying to sort of pare down the amount of output you get, right, into single lines. So that's the terse, and underscore ID is more valuable to a lot of the folks that I work with, insofar as like, that's the thing that it's at the root of the state block that, we can identify it in the code, right? So, a lot of the people that I know are running, underscore ID variants of state output. And so they would be able to benefit from this potentially more so than people who are running in like default modes. And that's kind of why when I introduced the PR, I didn't want to flip it to default, because as long as I know about it, I'm cool with it. So, I could go either way on this, right? Like, I'm aware of it. I find it valuable. So as long as it's there for me to flip on, I'm good. But if enough people think like, hey, this should potentially be the new default, because it has some value there, then I'm fine with putting another quick PR to like put a note in somewhere saying that after some time period, this is going to flip.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my follow-up question there would be, what does the output look like if you're not using one of the underscore IDs, like terse ID? If it's, one of my concerns would be, it's like, this makes sense, like this, because you're getting like multiple, you're getting duplicates, and you don't necessarily want to be seeing the same thing over and over again. That's not helpful. But if you're not using one of those, and then we have this as default, what are we potentially hiding from in the outputs inadvertently from the user?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know with, if it's a success, then it's fine, but I hadn't actually checked with ones that like change on just like a regular high state output. That would be,
yeah, I mean, that would be my main concern too, is like on a failure or on changes, what is not being shown.
Yeah, so it's rolling up by result. So when there's success, failures, changes, it pairs those out differently. But when you have the normal name output, you're not going to see duplicate lines anyway. Because like in the scenario here, right, instead of showing mixed match results, we would be showing the actual command that was run instead.
Yeah, and I just remembered that I did actually test it with some other outputs, and it ends out like aggregating, I'm pretty sure, as a list or a block beneath the top one, and it's like, oh, here are the changes, state 1, state 2, state 3, or whatever it is.
Yep.
So it doesn't hide anything. It just reorganizes the presentation.
Okay, so if there is with this on, in simple terms, it's gathering them all up into a list and then scanning through and looking for duplicates and removing the duplicates, or counting the duplicates.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if there's not, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's something we can bring to the core team at large and just see if anyone else has any concerns, because I know not everyone from the core team is currently here. And then if no one has any objections, we can add do a deprecation path, add a warning in here, and just make this the default going forward.
Yeah, cool. Once you talk it through with folks, just let me know if there's anything that you need from me. And I think that's mostly all I had.
One question from Nick Hughes. It's a rare moment. Any other questions from anyone? Any concerns, any problems? Anything they want to highlight? If not, we can go to the standard ending of open hour and have a joke from Wayne.
And I have to
Okay.
look one up. Darn it.
I love your hat, by the way, Wayne.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Props. Thank you.
So what do you call a fly without wings? A walk. Oh dear.
That felt hasty.
That
It felt
was,
hasty.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I put him on the spot there. He had to scramble to come up with something.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So you know, I guess in the spirit of, you know, just improving things, well, you know, what's the best way to carve wood? It's whittle by whittle. Getting any better here? So what happens when you witness a shipwreck? You let it sink in.
We're
Got a-
waiting for one now.
We got a triple header today. Well, there you go. Gareth, thank you for hosting, man.
Yep. Glad to do
Applause.
it.
Well done, sir. Well done, sir. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for this open hour. Again, we will see you on March 3rd for the next SALT Project Community Open Hour. And if you have anything that you would like to showcase on Salty 5, be sure to hit me on Slack. And again, a reminder, we need volunteers. I would ask for volunteers first to be community moderators as we redo the SALT Project Code of Conduct. So thanks again, everyone. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.